So if you think about this tool, it's a very flexible environment for analysis, and I'm focusing on who, what, when, and where, and mixing and matching of these fields. Uh, if you think about who, we're going to be talking about record counts or percentages of total number of records. In the context of companies that I've focused on, it could be locate companies and individuals. I'm not sure why I have countries in there, but that's probably a mistake. But anyway, when we think about protection, we think about when the protection is occurring. So maybe work with in the patent area filing priority filing dates and so forth, but also um, where protection is occurring using a publication country data and so forth. I'll get a sense of market focus where a company or a group of companies are putting their resources to develop their technology and sell their products. And then what to protect, company strengths and weaknesses. This is pretty much an analysis where you're looking at capabilities that either you've defined or I'll be demonstrating the concept, the results of using our concept grid. Our concept grid is quite handy in terms of focusing on terminology that is highly clustered. And giving you main titles or concepts around those clustered terms, and I'll be working on those. I'll be working with a group of my terms that I've simply analyzed, grouped terminology from an NLP list of terminology within the analysis and so forth. So the idea is to mix and match the who, what, when, and the where of the data. In terms of the tool itself, you'll find it in the Analyze tab in the Explore area, the pivot tool. And it allows you to visualize in a number of ways using 3 tables and 5 types of graphs. And you have up to up to 10 different fields. I have gone in and done some renaming, copying, renaming of fields, as you can see over here on the right, the who, the where, the when, the what, really for demonstration purposes, but also to illustrate the importance of, at the end result, your labels are labels that your users will understand and recognize in terms of what type of data is being used for the field that you're analyzing. It's quite handy in terms of dragging and dropping, and you'll see that it's quite useful in that regard, and filtering to different elements within a field that as you analyze the data, you'll begin to see different data points that you want to emphasize, and you can filter to just those different data points. And very important, the capability that is valued a lot with VantagePoint is the ability to use the record view to actually look at the records, to be able to graphic information, the abstract, and so forth, and help understand the data a little better on the fly using the detail windows. And think about this in terms of you're sharing this file with somebody, with the reader. They have these capabilities as well. Want to kind of orient you to the actual output of the reader. Of the pivot tool, and we'll be mixing and matching fields. You'll notice the parking lot. I'll have chosen my maximum of 10 fields to do the demonstration with. I'll be sorting either the column data here or the row data, and looking at the types of graphic outputs. Right now, we're looking at a table bar chart, but there are a number of other graphic output that we will be looking at. Also re-emphasizing use of the detail windows, the fact that you can select within the detail window. In this case, I'm looking at, there's 2 documents that have 6 back citations each. And when I select those, they happen to be highlighted in the title window, and I can actually look at the records that underlie that data. So the detail windows are also quite useful in terms of exploring this data. This is just another example showing you the stacked column chart. Again, selecting the document that has the most claims and focusing on that document, and then opening it up to the actual record view. Okay, so without any further ado, let's go into the platform and actually demonstrate these functions. So I'm going to toggle back over to VantagePoint and just give you a sense of what I've done in terms of pre-work, and maybe give you an example of what I mean by renaming fields and so forth. I'm just going to quickly filter to my who, what, when, and where fields that I've already developed. In making these fields, these are copies of fields, and if there's any question as to where a copy of a field came from, if you right-click on any field, you'll get the menu of options, and below you'll see View Field History, and it'll show you that particular field and that it's a duplicate and the other fields that it came off of and so forth. So you can use the field history to allow you to understand better these fields that completely are named differently from other fields, but at least the field history can allow you to see that information. I'm going to remove the sorting and just give you a sense of renaming a field. If I go to dead or alive, if I first of all make a copy of the field, and I'm going to basically give it a new name, and I'm going to use this field within the demonstration. And click OK. And we now have this new field. This is the result, the list from that new field. If I go back to the summary sheet, you'll notice we have this new field here that we're going to be using. So with all the prep and up front done, the who, what, when, where that I'll be identifying in my pivot tool, let's build the pivot tool. So let's go to the Analyze. In the Analyze tab, the developers at Search Tech consider that this tool is an exploring tool and under the Analyze tab. So here's the pivot tool. We'll ring it up. Let me maximize it. And you'll notice all of the fields within the analysis. And again, I can filter to the who, what, when, where the fields. I'm going to take and start building this. And first of all, I'm going to take the assignees, and I'm going to be working with 20 assignees from the data. And I'm going to be working with the concepts. And there's a reason for me picking these two fields first, because once we generate the output within the pivot tool, the pivot table, what have you, it's going to focus on the first 2 elements within your list of chosen fields to give that output. And I'm going to basically use these 2 fields to start the table. And then I'm just going to pull the other fields over one at a time. As you see here, just select them. And so what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have the ability to have 2 more, and I know my legal status field that I want to have the dead or alive data. Also, I want to demonstrate the scatter plot capability. So my my claims count, I'm going to use that in the analysis. So with all this said and done and picked, we'll go click OK, and it'll disappear for a second, building it, and it shouldn't take too long. I'd say, are there any questions right now? I don't know, Denise, are there any questions? We forgot to tell people to basically use the chat panel for questioning. So,
Right, absolutely, at any time.
okay, so here we are, and here's our table. And you'll notice my concepts at the top is the row data. Concepts along the top of, I'm sorry, the column data. And then the assinees is the row data. You'll also notice there's this big chunk of no records in the data. And this is quite common. You know, your analysis is, I'm only looking at 20 assignees within this analysis. So I don't want to really bother with using that information. So I can filter those out, and I'll show that in a minute. You can sort the columns and the rows. You'll notice I'm doing that here, just allowing you to gather a better understanding. You can change the analysis in terms of record count to percentage records, which because of these counts being so low, I might go with percentage. And also, you'll notice the dragging and dropping. Maybe I'd like to represent this data in the opposite format using switching the rows and the columns. Now, one thing that right now my analysis is full of all these no records. Let's get rid of them. So we're going to basically get rid of the no records from the assignee data and the no records from the concept data. And
I do have a just maybe while you're doing this, because it does. The question is, what is the difference between this pivot and making a matrix? And since it looks like that, I think might be a good time for you to answer.
well, the matrix, the matrix has its uses. The pivot capability is really giving you the idea of uh, mixing and matching these elements, the freedom of this is pretty much a pivot, but I've changed it from total number of counts to percentages. And also, I haven't demonstrated, but I have the ability to also look at this information as a heat map and so on. So really, they're very similar, and you'll notice the interaction with the data over the title windows and the detail windows here as well. So um, yeah, call it a table, but you could call it a matrix.
Right, but that the bottom line is that the flexibility for mixing and matching and quickly changing
Mhm.
the way that the data is presented, all the different graphical um, flexibility.
Right. I mean, if I go and make a matrix, I have what, two fields that I can pick from, and then and so forth. So yeah. Okay. So let's just kind of get into looking at this data in a number of ways. I like looking at it using a heat map, um, and also being able to maybe focus on my different companies. I actually prefer looking at the companies as rows. And so I can set that up. I also would like to focus on certain companies, maybe the food companies within my data. And so if I select that, I'm going to basically select none and go through and pick the basic food companies. So if I start maybe, consumer products, food, um, and so forth, and add these to the mix. And then look at this information maybe in another way, going into building it out into a column chart. Column charts are handy, but you'll notice that I tend to prefer my comparing my companies based on my technologies. And I prefer to possibly work with that as a stacked column chart. And then you have the ability to look at the information, focusing on certain elements within your analysis, such as Nestle is a very dominant player within this area. I notice a lot of them are working in mixture. If I eliminate mixture from the mix, or if I eliminate aqueous solution from the mix, just kind of allowing me to compare these different concepts and then adding them back. And all the while, and all of this output is a candidate for putting it into Excel if you'd like to export this into Excel. So this particular the values that lie within this data here can be actually put into an Excel export, and the process of exporting it is basically copying it to the clipboard and then pasting it into an Excel spreadsheet. So if we go back now to just to that particular analysis, which was that stacked chart, um, maybe we'd like to look at something else, like I'd like to look at, just looking down, look at a trend analysis, for example. The thing that you have to be aware of is that you'll notice these little filters. The data is filtered and it needs to be unfiltered for the next analysis. So if I were to take this and just basically select all, apply, select all, apply, and then come back and just add these information. Now here's all of my records. I'm working with a total of 2,398 records. This is the entire data set. And I want to start looking at it based on trend analysis. So a line chart. Obviously, the data is right there. There's nothing along the x-axis. Let's add some information here, like for example, the win. So publication years. If I take this, you'll notice that the publication years. I can look at it either in this manner, or I could sort it so that it's uh, sorting in the opposite direction. I can take and go in and get rid of those pesky no records, and then start adding uh, different elements, such as I could work with concept data, or I have my terms over here. So I'm going to add my terms, and work with my terms. I notice my no records here. Got to get rid of the no records, um, and just be able to compare the different trends within the technologies that I've identified over time. Otherwise, or I could, obviously, let's go with and I have a group of academic and corporate and government company entities that I've identified, and just see where they lie within this data. Government is very small, obviously here, active the 2021 time period in this data, maybe a little bit earlier. But anyhow, you get a sense of just using this function. If I go back, just unfilter, just get rid of my apply and go back to unfilter my terms here. And let's look at a scatter chart. So with that, we're going to look at, we've added a count field. And if I go with that count field, you'll notice that this is the count of all the data. I want to spread that across some companies. I'll spread it across my assignees. And here again, we can filter to the different companies. There's no record data in here, so I remove that information. Um, and you can see the companies. Cargill has certain documents that have really high counts and so forth. So, and then the other is basically to show you idea unfilter the multi pie chart. So let's move this over here. We'll get rid of claims counts, and let's just we'll look at our companies. So here is the 20 companies, and we'll break it apart into the my terms and change that over to the pie chart and give you a sense of that. And if I wanted to change that, obviously I could go back and forth. And here again, we have lots of no records that we should remove. So so that's basically the functions within the tool. And again, if I wanted to look at the Nestle records, if I wanted to look at uh, their priority uh, years, priority year information, priority year earliest. If I wanted to look at their uh, forward citation information of the records, and decide that I'm going to look at the Nestle compositions. There's a particular one that has 9 forward citations, and then again going in and opening up that record and looking at that record. So um, having that capability. Okay, so want to try this, Denise?
Absolutely.
Okay, so imagine you've gone through, you've set up your VPT file or your VantagePoint export. You've gone over to the Home tab, you've saved it, and then you've emailed it, or somehow you've shared it with your colleague. My colleague is Denise, and so let's just switch gears and give everybody a sense of what the reader allows you to take advantage of.
Okay, so I'm going to switch over to my screen then, and
And you'll see it looks very similar to the actual Vantage Point, with some limitations, obviously, in the functions that are found in the ribbon.
mhm. All right. So I've just received. I have the reader loaded, and you notice it's a very limited set of options. But my colleague Rick has sent me the entire VPT file, and I'm looking at the summary sheet. And he told me that he prepared a pivot table, so I'm going to go find that tab. He's done a lot of analysis, as you can see. He's created a lot of visuals, but I'm going to go to the pivot table because he wants to show me some things. So, yeah, Rick, here's just open the pivot table.
So notice, Denise, in fact, this might be one thing that, in terms of introducing a new user to this functionality, walking them through and telling them, are you interested in BASF?
Hmm.
Uh, and you'll notice BASF mixtures. If you select mixtures, um, you'll be able to highlight the actual documents within BASF mixtures over there on the left. You notice that on the far left where it says title, and you can
So,
double click on that and see you can read that
oh,
information. Should pop up here
yeah, it's popping up, of course, in
on another
maybe
screen.
on another screen, but um, yeah,
I don't know if you can slide that over. There you go.
yeah, right. So I was able to, right, I'm interested in BASF and mixtures, and I see this record, and I can read the entire abstract. And I also had highlighted. I noticed I added some keywords at a keyword list on my reader, and that was highlighted for me already.
So by that,
Great.
you'll notice over on the far lower right corner, there's this
Right.
list, and she's been adding terms that basically she wants to be able to focus on when she's scanning through these records.
So it yeah, highlighted immediately.
The other thing
Fabulous.
before you,
Mm, I can
at the
do
very
that.
bottom of the screen, you'll have noticed that there's a place to add notes. So if for whatever reason you can send this file back to the analyst with notes, and when she adds a note, and just go into the notes section down the bottom of that screen, you'll see very see the notes. It says
Oh, right, right. Yes, 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 yes.
just add something,
Uh-huh. Okay.
retrieve
Right.
full patent, or
Mm-hmm.
um, and if everything is going correctly, you'll notice there's a little sticky tab over on, notice in the upper title, the left area sticky tab. So uh, that will allow whoever receives this file to focus on those elements that you've identified. You can also export this as an Excel spreadsheet as a new column. The new column will be notes, and the notes column will be the row that has all of the information relevant to a patent, and then your added note column with your terminology within the note. So, yeah. Okay. So, she has all the functions, and dragging and dropping if she unfilters.
Mm-hmm.
And wants to look at these particular companies based on something else like where. If you just pick the where publication country, yep, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. Breaks down where they're publishing, and so forth. So
Excellent. Right. And oh, I see too. If I am looking at the World Patent Office, highlights which is green, and that becomes highlighted. If I want to look at the EU Patent Office, which is orange, I see that becomes very prominent. And then, of course, the US, very flexible. Wonderful. And also wanted to point out that some of the calculations, if we were looking at the matrix view, we were looking at percentage, but the other statistical functions of averaging, mediums, and maximums are also available in this dropdown. So many visuals and many quantitative functions. Okay, fabulous.